Some stories sound so impossible that most people dismiss them as desperate fantasies of a grieving mind. But if you're someone who believes that love transcends death, and that miracles are documented reality, then what I'm about to share will shatter everything you thought you knew about the afterlife. Harmony Wells was kneeling on her sister's bedroom floor in Phoenix, Arizona, surrounded by boxes of memories she couldn't bear to pack away. Serenity had been dead for exactly 72 hours. The funeral flowers were still wilting on the kitchen counter. The scent of her sister's vanilla perfume still clung to the pillowcases that Harmony clutched against her chest, sobbing until no more tears would come. That's when she noticed it. Serenity's purple leather diary lay open on the nightstand, pages fluttering slightly in the breeze from the air conditioning. But something was wrong. Terribly, impossibly wrong. The page that caught Harmony's attention was crisp and white, filled with fresh ink in her sister's unmistakable handwriting. The same looping cursive that had written grocery lists and love notes and angry journal entries for 24 years. But the date at the top made Harmony's blood freeze. October 15th, 2024. 2 days after Serenity's funeral. 2 days after they had lowered her broken body into the Arizona desert soil. Harmony's hands trembled as she lifted the diary, her vision blurring as she read the first line. "I know you're reading this right now, Harmony. I can see you crying on the floor in that blue sweater you wore to my funeral." The blue sweater. The exact blue sweater she was wearing at that very moment. The one she had grabbed from Serenity's closet that morning because she couldn't bear to let go of anything that smelled like her sister. Her heart hammered against her ribs as she continued reading. "You broke down at the Safeway on Camelback Road this morning. Aisle 7, by the cereal. You were buying my favorite Lucky Charms because you thought it would make you feel closer to me. Mrs. Henderson saw you crying and gave you tissues, but you were too embarrassed to look at her. Every detail was perfect. Every moment exactly as it had happened. But that was impossible. Absolutely impossible." The message continued in Serenity's voice, warm and gentle like honey. "I need you to know that death isn't what we thought it was. I'm not gone, Harmony. I'm just speaking to you differently now. And there are things I need to tell you. Things I discovered before the accident. Things about our family that will change everything." Harmony's breath caught in her throat as she read the final line. Butterfly kisses and midnight wishes. Forever and always. Their secret code. The phrase they had whispered to each other as children during thunderstorms. The words they had texted each other before every first date, every job interview, every scary moment of their lives. No one else on earth knew those words. No one. Harmony stared at the diary, her mind fracturing between logic and impossibility. She was a rational woman, a marketing director with a master's degree. She believed in science, in facts, in things that could be measured and proven. But here, in her trembling hands, was evidence that everything she thought she knew about life and death was wrong. This is the documented story that medical professionals, psychologists, and paranormal investigators are still trying to explain. A story that challenges every assumption about consciousness, love, and what happens when our physical bodies can no longer contain our souls. If you're ready to witness miracles that mainstream science refuses to acknowledge, then buckle up, because Harmony's journey is about to take us into territory that will haunt your dreams and heal your heart in ways you never thought possible. What happened next would either prove that love truly conquers death, or drive a grieving sister completely insane. 3 weeks before everything changed forever, Harmony Wells was standing in her kitchen in Phoenix, Arizona, stirring honey into her morning tea when her phone buzzed with a text that would haunt her for the rest of her life. "Call me when you get this. I had the dream again." Serenity's message glowed on the screen at 6:47 a.m. on a Tuesday that felt like every other Tuesday in October. Harmony rolled her eyes, sipped her chamomile tea, and decided her younger sister could wait until after her morning conference call with the marketing team. The dream again. Serenity had been having the same nightmare for months now. Something about driving through a tunnel of white light, but she always described it with this strange mix of terror and peace that made no sense. By the time Harmony remembered to call back, it was almost noon. The Arizona sun was blazing through her office windows on the 15th floor of the downtown Phoenix building, where she worked as marketing director for a tech startup. She kicked off her heels, propped her feet up on her glass desk, and dialed her sister's number while reviewing client presentations. Finally, Serenity answered on the first ring. Her voice sounded different, breathless. like she had been running, or crying, or both. Sorry, work was crazy this morning. What's going on with the dream? Same tunnel thing? Harm. This one was different. Serenity's voice dropped to a whisper. I wasn't just watching it happen. I was floating above my own body. I could see everything. The steering wheel, the dashboard, even the song playing on the radio. Dancing Queen by ABBA. Isn't that weird? I haven't listened to ABBA in years, but it was so clear, like I was actually hearing it. Harmony frowned, setting down her coffee mug. Something in her sister's tone made her stomach clench with an anxiety she couldn't name. Serenity, dreams are just your brain processing random stuff. You probably heard that song somewhere and forgot about it. But that's not the weird part. Serenity's voice was getting stronger now, more urgent. In the dream, I could see you too. You were in some kind of room I'd never seen before, sitting on a wooden floor, crying. You were wearing this blue sweater, and you were holding something against your chest. Something purple. And there were boxes everywhere like you were packing. The conference room suddenly felt 20 degrees colder. Harmony's hand tightened around her phone. What kind of blue sweater? That cornflower blue one I bought last month. The soft one from Nordstrom. I kept meaning to give it to you because I thought it would look better with your skin tone. Serenity paused. Harm, in the dream, you looked so broken. More broken than I've ever seen you. And there was this feeling, like something terrible had happened. Like I was trying to reach you but couldn't. Harmony's throat felt dry. Serenity. That's just a nightmare. Stress dreams. You've been working too many double shifts at the hospital. Maybe. But Serenity didn't sound convinced. There's something else, though. At the end of the dream, I was writing. Not typing, actually writing with a pen. Purple ink. And I knew, somehow I just knew, that what I was writing was the most important thing I would ever write in my entire life. Like your happiness depended on it. The phone felt heavy in Harmony's hand. Outside her office window, Phoenix stretched out in all directions under the merciless October sun, but she felt cold down to her bones. What were you writing? I don't remember the exact words, but the feeling was so strong, like I was trying to tell you something urgent. Something about not giving up, about keeping going even when it felt impossible. Serenity's voice cracked, and at the very end, I wrote our code, butterfly kisses and midnight wishes. I wrote it over and over until I woke up. Harmony's chest tightened. They had created that phrase when Serenity was 7 and Harmony was 11, during a summer thunderstorm that had knocked out power for 3 days. Their parents were fighting in the next room, sharp voices cutting through the humid darkness, and little Serenity had crawled into Harmony's bed, terrified of the lightning. Harmony had whispered silly made-up phrases until she found one that made Serenity giggle. Butterfly kisses and midnight wishes. It became their secret language, their way of saying I love you when the world felt scary. Serenity, I want you to promise me something, Harmony said, surprised by the intensity in her own voice. Drive carefully today. Actually, drive carefully every day. These dreams are probably nothing, but humor your paranoid big sister. I'm always careful, Harm. You know that. Serenity's laugh sounded forced. But actually, that's kind of why I called. I did something yesterday that I need to tell you about. What kind of something? I applied for a job. For you. The words came out in a rush. There's an opening at Phoenix Children's Hospital for an art therapy coordinator. It's perfect for you, Harm. You have the psychology background. You're amazing with kids. And I know how much you hate corporate marketing. The pay is good. The benefits are incredible. And you'd be doing something that actually matters. Harmony's mouth fell open. You applied for a job for me? Without asking? I used your portfolio from college, the one with all your art therapy research. Remember how passionate you used to be about helping kids process trauma through art? Before you got stuck in the corporate world? Serenity's voice was getting excited now. The strange dream temporarily forgotten. I sent them everything. Your transcripts, your volunteer work at the children's shelter, even that paper you wrote about how creativity can heal PTSD in young minds. Serenity, I can't just quit my job. I have responsibilities, a mortgage, student loans. The salary is actually $15,000 more than what you're making now. And Harm, I have this feeling, this really strong feeling that this job is meant for you, like the universe is trying to push you toward your real purpose. Serenity paused. Promise me you'll at least take the interview if they call. Harmony stared out her office window at the sprawling city below. She thought about the marketing presentations scattered across her desk, the endless meetings about conversion rates and click-through statistics, the gnawing emptiness she felt every Sunday night knowing she had to return to this glass tower and pretend to care about selling software to people who didn't need it. "Promise me you'll keep reading, even when it doesn't make sense." The words came out of Serenity's mouth with such strange intensity that Harmony dropped her pen. "What did you just say?" "I said, promise me you'll at least consider the interview." But Serenity's voice sounded confused, like she wasn't sure what she had actually said. "No, before that. You said something about keeping reading." "I didn't say anything about reading, Harm. Are you okay? You sound weird." Harmony's heart was pounding now, though she couldn't explain why. "Never mind. I'm probably just tired. So you'll think about the job?" "I'll think about it." Harmony glanced at her calendar, packed solid with meetings for the rest of the week. "But right now I need to get back to work. I have the Morrison presentation at 2. "Okay, but Harm? Yeah? I love you. Like, really love you. In case I don't get a chance to tell you that enough." Serenity's voice had gone soft again, tender in a way that made Harmony's chest ache. "I love you too, weirdo. Stop being so dramatic. Butterfly kisses and midnight wishes. Forever and always." They hung up, and Harmony tried to focus on her presentations, but something felt off. The afternoon dragged by in a haze of spreadsheets and conference calls, but she couldn't shake the image Serenity had described. Herself in a blue sweater she'd never owned, crying on a wooden floor, surrounded by boxes, holding something purple against her chest. At 11:47 p.m., Harmony's phone rang with a call that would split her life into before and after. The voice on the other end was professional, clinical, speaking words that didn't seem real. Car accident, critical condition, desert medical center. She drove through empty Phoenix streets at midnight, her hands shaking on the steering wheel, Serenity's last words echoing in her mind like a prophecy. By dawn, Serenity was gone, and Harmony's world had collapsed into a grief so profound that breathing felt like drowning. 3 days later, she would discover that some promises transcend death. Harmony's hands wouldn't stop shaking as she reread the impossible page for the 7th time. The diary felt warm in her palms, almost alive, and every rational thought in her mind screamed that this was a breakdown, a hallucination, grief-induced psychosis. But the handwriting was undeniably Serenity's. Every loop of the cursive letters, every slightly crooked I, every way she dotted her I's with tiny hearts instead of circles. She set the diary down on Serenity's nightstand and backed away from it, like it might explode. The bedroom felt different now, charged with an energy that made the hair on her arms stand up. Afternoon light filtered through the sheer curtains, casting everything in a golden glow that would have been peaceful if Harmony's heart wasn't hammering against her ribs like a caged bird. She pulled out her phone with trembling fingers and called the one person who might believe her, without immediately suggesting therapy. "Harmony, how are you holding up, sweetheart?" Dr. Sarah Martinez had been the family therapist for 6 years, helping them navigate their parents' messy divorce and Serenity's anxiety issues. Her voice was warm, professional, concerned. "Dr. Martinez, I need to ask you something, and I need you to promise you won't hang up on me or call for a psychiatric evaluation." A pause. "What's going on?" "If someone died, truly died, like in a morgue with a death certificate died, would it be possible for them to write something new, something that wasn't there before?" "Harmony, grief can manifest in very unusual ways. Sometimes people experience what we call complicated bereavement, where the mind creates coping mechanisms that feel completely real but are actually..." I found a page in Serenity's diary that wasn't there before, a page dated after her death, written in her handwriting, describing things that happened to me today that no living person witnessed. The silence stretched so long that Harmony thought the call had dropped. Finally, Dr. Martinez spoke, her voice carefully neutral. "Where are you right now?" "Serenity's apartment, packing her things." Harmony's voice cracked. "Dr. Martinez, I know how this sounds. I have a master's degree in marketing. I understand statistics and logic and the scientific method, but I'm looking at evidence that challenges everything I believe about reality. Can you read me what it says?" Harmony picked up the diary again, her hands steadier now. It starts with, "I know you're reading this right now, Harmony. I can see you crying on the floor in that blue sweater you wore to my funeral. Dr. Martinez, I am wearing that sweater. Serenity's blue sweater that I took from her closet this morning. What else does it say? You broke down at the Safeway on Camelback Road this morning. Aisle 7, by the cereal. You were buying my favorite Lucky Charms because you thought it would make you feel closer to me. Mrs. Henderson saw you crying and gave you tissues, but you were too embarrassed to look at her. Harmony's voice was barely a whisper now. Every word of that is true. Mrs. Henderson is our neighbor. I've never mentioned her to anyone except Serenity. The silence was deafening. When Dr. Martinez spoke again, her voice had changed. Less clinical, more human. Harmony, I want you to stay exactly where you are. Don't touch anything else. I'm coming over. You believe me? I believe that you're experiencing something that requires immediate attention. Whether that's psychological support or something else entirely, we need to figure it out together. After hanging up, Harmony sat on Serenity's bed, staring at the diary. The rational part of her mind cataloged all the ways this could be explained. Someone had broken in and written the page as a cruel prank. She was having a dissociative episode. She had written it herself in a fugue state and forgotten. But none of those explanations accounted for the specific details about Mrs. Henderson, about her exact breakdown location in the grocery store, about the sweater she had grabbed impulsively that morning. She thought about the last conversation she'd had with Serenity, about the strange dream with the blue sweater and the purple object and the overwhelming urge to write something crucial. Had Serenity somehow known? Had the dream been a premonition rather than a nightmare? If you're still with me at this point, it means you're exactly the kind of person who understands that reality is far more mysterious than we've been taught. There's a growing community of us here who recognize that these aren't coincidences or psychological breaks. They're documented miracles. Subscribe to this channel because what happens next in Harmony's story is going to challenge everything you thought you knew about consciousness, death, and the eternal bonds between souls. Trust me, you don't want to miss a single detail of how this impossible communication unfolds. Harmony was still staring at the diary when she heard footsteps in the hallway. Dr. Martinez had arrived faster than should have been possible, but grief distorted time in strange ways. Harmony called out that the door was unlocked, and moments later, Dr. Martinez appeared in the bedroom doorway. Dr. Martinez was a small woman in her 50s, with silver-streaked hair and kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. She had the sort of calm presence that made people feel safe telling her their darkest secrets. But right now, her face showed something Harmony had never seen before: genuine uncertainty. "Show me," Dr. Martinez said simply. Harmony handed her the diary, open to the impossible page. Dr. Martinez's eyes moved across the handwriting, her expression growing more puzzled with each line. She pulled out her phone and took several photos of the page, then examined the binding of the diary, looking for signs of tampering. "This is definitely Serenity's handwriting," she said finally. "I've seen enough of her journal entries during our sessions to be certain. And you're telling me this page wasn't here before today? I packed this diary myself 3 days ago after the funeral. I flipped through every page looking for photos or important documents. This page was blank." Harmony's voice was steady now, strengthened by having a witness. "Dr. Martinez, what if death isn't what we think it is? What if consciousness can exist independently of the physical brain?" Dr. Martinez set the diary down carefully on the nightstand. "In 30 years of practice, I've learned to keep an open mind about experiences that can't be easily categorized. There are documented cases of after-death communications that don't fit our current understanding of neuroscience or physics." "You mean this has happened to other people?" "More often than you might think. Usually it's dreams or sensing a presence, or feeling guided to do something the deceased would have wanted. But direct written communication?" Dr. Martinez shook her head. "I've never encountered anything quite like this." Harmony felt a strange mix of relief and terror. She wasn't losing her mind, but she was entering territory that had no maps, no guidelines, no rational framework for understanding what was happening. "What do I do now?" she asked. "We wait and see if it happens again. We document everything. And we try to remain open to possibilities we've never considered before." Dr. Martinez looked directly into Harmony's eyes. "But first, I need you to promise me something. If this continues, if more pages appear, you'll call me immediately. You won't face this alone. I promise." As Dr. Martinez gathered her things to leave, she paused at the bedroom door. Harmony, there's something I never told you about my last session with Serenity. She said something that didn't make sense at the time. But now, she trailed off, looking uncertain. What did she say? She told me she was worried about you. That she had a feeling something was going to happen that would change your life forever. And she wanted to make sure you knew how much she loved you. She said, and I quote, "If something happens to me, Harmony is going to need proof that love doesn't end." I thought she was just being dramatic, but now I wonder if she somehow knew. After Dr. Martinez left, Harmony sat alone in the gathering darkness of Serenity's bedroom. She didn't turn on the lights. Something about the twilight felt sacred, like a bridge between the world of the living and whatever realm her sister was speaking from. At exactly 9:17 p.m., she heard the sound that would haunt her dreams for months, the soft scratch of pen on paper. She turned toward the nightstand, and in the dim light filtering through the curtains, she could swear she saw the diary's pages fluttering slightly, as if touched by an invisible hand. Harmony's breath caught in her throat as she crept toward the nightstand, like she was approaching a wild animal. The diary lay exactly where she had left it, but something had changed. The pages were no longer still. They moved with a subtle rhythm, almost like breathing, and in the dim twilight, she could see fresh ink glistening wetly on what had been a blank page just moments before. Her phone buzzed with a text message, shattering the supernatural silence. "Dr. Martinez, just got home. Feeling unsettled about our conversation. Call if anything else happens. Anything else happens." As if on cue, the scratching sound came again, soft and deliberate, like someone writing very carefully to make sure every word was legible. Harmony's hands shook as she turned on her phone's flashlight and aimed it at the diary. The new page was dated October 16th, 2024. Today's date. "My dearest Harmony," the message began in Serenity's flowing cursive. "I can feel your fear from here, and I need you to know that there's nothing to be afraid of. Death is not what we were taught. It's not an ending. It's a transformation into something more expansive, more connected to universal love than I ever imagined possible." Harmony sank onto the edge of the bed, her legs too weak to support her weight. The handwriting was perfect, unhurried, exactly the way Serenity wrote when she was being thoughtful and deliberate. "I know you're wondering if you're losing your mind. You're not. What's happening between us is a gift, a temporary bridge that's been granted because our love is strong enough to transcend physical limitations. But there are things I need to tell you before this connection fades." The words blurred as tears filled Harmony's eyes. She wiped them away quickly, afraid she might miss something crucial. First, about the job at Phoenix Children's Hospital. Tomorrow morning at 10:30 a.m., Dr. Rebecca Chen will call you. She reviewed your application and wants to offer you the position. Please say yes, Harmony. This isn't just about changing careers. This job will save your life in ways you can't imagine yet. Harmony's heart stopped. She had never told anyone about Serenity's secret job application. Even Dr. Martinez didn't know. There was no way anyone could have known to include that detail unless... Second, you need to know about the cardboard box in my closet behind the winter coats. Inside, you'll find something Dad left for us before he died. Something Mom never knew about because she would have thrown it away. He had experiences like this too, Harmony. Our family has always been sensitive to the spiritual realm, but Mom's fear made us hide it. Harmony's father had died 5 years ago from a sudden heart attack, taking with him a gentleness and wisdom that had balanced their mother's rigid skepticism. He used to tell bedtime stories about guardian angels and spirits who helped lost souls find their way home. Stories their mother dismissed as nonsense that would give the girls unrealistic expectations about life. "Go look now. I'll wait." The words appeared to shimmer on the page, as if they had been written with liquid starlight instead of ink. Harmony stood on unsteady legs and walked to Serenity's closet. Behind the row of winter coats, exactly where the message said it would be, was a weathered cardboard box she had never noticed before. Inside the box was their father's journal, bound in cracked brown leather. The first entry was dated 30 years ago, 6 months before Harmony was born. As she flipped through the pages, her father's familiar handwriting told an impossible story. Dreams that predicted the future, conversations with his deceased grandfather, moments when he knew things he had no logical way of knowing. The most striking entry was from the week before Harmony's birth. "The baby will be special. She'll have the gift, stronger than I do. And when she has children of her own, the gift will be even stronger in them. We are a family of bridge builders between worlds. Harmony returned to the bedroom with the journal clutched against her chest. The diary was glowing softly now, as if lit from within, and new words were appearing as she watched. You see, you're not broken or crazy. You're awakening to abilities that have always been part of your DNA. Dad knew. He left detailed instructions in that journal about how to develop and control the gift safely. Read entry 127. That's where he explains how love can create temporary windows between dimensions. With trembling fingers, Harmony found entry 127. Her father's words seemed to leap off the page. True love creates quantum entanglement between souls. When two people love each other unconditionally, their consciousness becomes connected across space and time. Physical death cannot break this bond. It only changes the communication method. The living soul becomes a receiver, and the departed soul becomes a transmitter of guidance and comfort. The diary continued. But here's what Dad couldn't have known. What I only learned after crossing over. The connection is strongest during times of transition, when the living soul is ready to step into their highest purpose. Harmony, your grief is not just about losing me. It's about being terrified to become who you were meant to be. The words hit like a physical blow. Harmony had been hiding from her dreams for years, choosing the safe path of corporate marketing over the risky calling of art therapy. She had been afraid of not being good enough, of not making enough money, of disappointing the practical expectations their mother had drilled into them. The children at the hospital need you, not because you have all the answers, but because you understand loss, because you know what it feels like to have your world shattered and to keep breathing anyway. Your pain is not a weakness, Harmony. It's your qualification. As if summoned by the words, Harmony's phone rang. The caller ID showed a number she didn't recognize, but somehow she knew who it was before she answered. Ms. Wells, this is Dr. Rebecca Chen from Phoenix Children's Hospital. I know it's late, but I wanted to reach out about your application for the art therapy coordinator position. We were incredibly impressed with your portfolio and background. Would you be available for an interview tomorrow morning at 10:30? Harmony's voice came out as a whisper. Yes, I'd like that very much. After hanging up, she looked back at the diary. New words were forming. Do you see how this works? The universe conspires to help us when we align with our true purpose. But there's something else. Something more difficult that I need to prepare you for. The handwriting became more urgent. The words darker. Not everyone will understand what's happening between us. Mom especially. She's going to try to convince you that this is grief-induced hallucination. She's going to want to take the diary away, maybe even have you committed for observation. You have to be stronger than her fear, Harmony. You have to trust what you know to be true. The prediction sent ice through Harmony's veins. Their mother, Linda Wells, was a retired nurse who believed in medical science and psychological explanations for everything. She had always been uncomfortable with their father's spiritual tendencies and would absolutely interpret supernatural communication as a sign of mental breakdown. There's one more thing hidden in Dad's journal, a phone number for someone who can help you understand what's happening. Dr. Patricia Santos at the University of Arizona. She's a consciousness researcher who studies after-death communication. Dad consulted with her before we were born. She'll believe you, and she'll help you document everything properly. The final words appeared slowly, each letter deliberate. Tomorrow will be the hardest day yet. The interview will go perfectly, but then something will happen that tests your faith in everything I've told you. Remember that love is the strongest force in any dimension. Remember that I am always with you, even when you can't feel me. And remember our promise. Butterfly kisses and midnight wishes. Forever and always. The diary fell silent, the glow fading until it looked like an ordinary purple journal again. But Harmony was no longer ordinary. She was a woman whose dead sister had just predicted the future, revealed family secrets, and guided her toward a destiny she was finally ready to embrace. Outside, the Phoenix night was alive with possibility, and Harmony Wells was about to discover that miracles were just the beginning. The interview at Phoenix Children's Hospital went exactly as Serenity had predicted. Dr. Rebecca Chen, a warm woman with kind eyes and silver hair, welcomed Harmony into her office overlooking the desert landscape. The conversation flowed effortlessly, as if Harmony had been preparing for this moment her entire life. Your portfolio is extraordinary, Doctor, Chen said, reviewing Harmony's college work. This research on how art therapy helps children process trauma is exactly what we need. We've had too many traditional approaches that don't reach the kids who need help most. Harmony found herself speaking with a confidence she didn't know she possessed, describing techniques she had studied years ago, but suddenly remembered with crystal clarity. She talked about using color therapy to help children express emotions they couldn't verbalize, about how clay sculpture could release physical tension stored in traumatized bodies, about creating safe spaces where healing could happen through creativity rather than words. "When can you start?" Dr. Chen asked at the end of 30 minutes that felt like 5. 2 weeks notice at my current job, so November 1st. Perfect. Welcome to the Phoenix Children's Hospital family, Harmony. Walking out of the hospital into the bright Arizona morning, Harmony felt a lightness she hadn't experienced since childhood. The sun seemed brighter, the desert mountains more majestic, and for the first time in days, she wasn't thinking about death. She was thinking about life, about possibility, about children who needed healing and how she might help provide it. She was so focused on her euphoria that she almost missed the black sedan following her home. Almost. The car stayed 3 vehicles behind her during the 20-minute drive from the hospital to Serenity's apartment complex, making the same turns, stopping at the same lights. Harmony's joy curdled into anxiety as she parked and watched the sedan pull into a visitor's spot across the parking lot. Her mother emerged from the driver's seat like a storm cloud taking human form. Linda Wells was 58 years old, silver-haired, and carried herself with the rigid posture of someone who had spent decades making life-or-death decisions as a trauma nurse. She wore her skepticism like armor, and right now, that armor was polished for battle. "Harmony Michelle Wells? What the hell is going on?" Linda's voice cut across the parking lot with surgical precision. She was holding a manila folder in her left hand, and her phone in her right, and her expression promised that this conversation would not end well for anyone involved. "Hi, Mom. What are you doing here? Dr. Martinez called me. She's concerned about your mental state. Something about supernatural experiences and written messages from beyond the grave." Linda's voice dripped with the sort of clinical disdain she reserved for patients who claim their pain was caused by evil spirits instead of legitimate medical conditions. Harmony's stomach dropped. Dr. Martinez had promised confidentiality, but apparently that didn't extend to situations where she thought someone might be having a psychotic break. "Mom, I can explain. No explanation necessary. I've done research." Linda opened the manila folder and pulled out printed articles from medical journals. Grief-induced hallucinations affect 30% of people who lose someone close to them. Visual hallucinations, auditory hallucinations, and yes, the belief that the deceased is communicating through writing. It's a well-documented psychological phenomenon. This isn't a hallucination, Mom. I have evidence. Evidence of what? That your dead sister is writing you letters? Linda's laugh was sharp and humorless. Harmony, listen to yourself. You're a rational, educated woman who's had a devastating loss. Your brain is creating coping mechanisms that feel real, but aren't based in reality. They had reached Serenity's apartment door, and Linda pushed past Harmony into the living room. Her eyes immediately went to the purple diary sitting on the coffee table, where Harmony had left it that morning. Is that the supposed evidence? Before Harmony could stop her, Linda had picked up the diary and was flipping through the pages. Her expression went from skeptical to confused, to something that looked almost like fear. "This is Serenity's handwriting," she said quietly. "I know, but these dates..." Linda's voice trailed off as she read the impossible entries. "These are dated after she died." "I know." Linda set the diary down and pulled out her phone. "I'm calling Dr. Rodriguez. He's a psychiatrist at Banner Hospital who specializes in grief-related psychosis. You need immediate evaluation and probably medication." "Mom, stop." Harmony's voice was stronger than she felt. "Before you make that call, there's something you need to see." She retrieved their father's journal from Serenity's bedroom and handed it to her mother. Linda's face went white as she recognized the handwriting. "Where did you find this?" "Serenity told me where to look." In her message, the one dated after her death. Linda sank onto the couch, the journal trembling in her hands. As she read their father's entries about supernatural experiences, about family gifts, about love transcending death, her clinical composure began to crack. "Your father never told me about any of this," she whispered, "because you would have reacted exactly the way you're reacting now. But this is impossible. Dead people don't write letters. Consciousness doesn't survive brain death. These are established scientific facts. Harmony sat beside her mother on the couch. What if our scientific facts are incomplete? What if consciousness is more than just electrical activity in the brain? What if love really can create connections that survive physical death? Linda was crying now. Silent tears that she wiped away with the back of her hand. If this is real, if your father really experienced these things, then I spent 25 years dismissing something that was important to him. I made him hide a fundamental part of who he was. He didn't hide it from us. He told us bedtime stories about guardian angels and spirits who helped people. He taught us to trust our intuition, to believe in magic, to look for signs that we're not alone in the universe. And I told you those were just stories. As if summoned by their mother's tears, the diary began to glow again. Both women watched in stunned silence as new words appeared on a fresh page. Linda, the message began, this is not your fault. You were protecting your daughters the only way you knew how. You've seen too much death, too much suffering, and you've built walls around your heart to survive. But now it's time to let those walls down. Linda's hands flew to her mouth. Oh my God. She's writing to me. The message continued. The night before Dad died, he tried to tell you about his experiences. You were in the kitchen making his favorite soup, and he said he'd been having dreams about his father. You told him it was just his medication making him confused. But Mom, those weren't medication dreams. Grandpa Joe was preparing him for the transition. Linda was sobbing now, deep wrenching sounds that came from decades of suppressed grief. The specific detail about the soup, about the conversation she had never shared with anyone, broke through her last defenses. I was so scared, she whispered. I'd seen so many people die, and I couldn't bear the thought of believing in anything that might give me false hope. It was easier to think death was final than to hope for something more and be disappointed. The diary continued. Harmony is not having a psychotic break. She's awakening to abilities that run in our family, abilities that Dad had and that I inherited. She's going to help children heal through art therapy, and part of that healing will involve helping them process their own supernatural experiences. Many traumatized children have encounters with deceased loved ones, and most adults dismiss these as fantasy. Harmony will be different. More words appeared. But she needs your support, not your skepticism. She needs you to believe in the impossible, to trust that love really is stronger than death, to help her document and understand what's happening between us. Linda looked at Harmony with eyes that held 25 years of regret. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I tried to take this away from you before I understood what it was. You didn't know, Mom. How could you have known? The final message appeared slowly. This is the last time I'll be able to communicate this clearly. The window is closing and I need to move on to whatever comes next. But I need you both to know that love doesn't end. It just changes form. Watch for the signs, trust your intuition, and remember that every child Harmony helps will be a testament to the eternal nature of the human soul. The diary went dark and still. Linda and Harmony sat in silence, holding each other as the weight of impossible truth settled around them like a blanket. Outside, the Arizona sun was setting, painting the desert sky in shades of purple and gold that looked exactly like the colors Serenity used to paint when she was happy. Neither woman noticed the diary glowing softly one more time, or the final words that appeared in letters so faint they seemed made of starlight. The real miracle starts tomorrow. 1 year later, Harmony stood in the art therapy room at Phoenix Children's Hospital, watching 8-year-old Marcus carefully paint purple butterflies across a canvas that had started as angry black scribbles. His grandmother had died 3 months ago, and the traditional grief counseling had failed to reach him. But something magical happened when Harmony handed him a paintbrush and told him that sometimes our loved ones send us messages through colors. Miss Harmony, Marcus said, not looking up from his painting. My grandma visits me at night. She sits on my bed and tells me stories, but my mom says that's just dreams. Harmony's heart clenched with recognition. What do you think, Marcus? Do they feel like dreams to you? No. Dreams are fuzzy and weird. Grandma feels real. She smells like cookies and her voice sounds exactly the same. He added delicate silver stars around the butterflies. She told me she's proud of me for coming to art class. She said you understand about visitors. Harmony knelt beside his easel, remembering her own 8-year-old self, trying to explain to adults that her grandmother had come to say goodbye the night after her funeral. Some people are born with special hearts that can feel love from far away. Even when someone dies, the love doesn't stop. It just finds new ways to reach us. Marcus looked up at her with eyes that held wisdom no child should possess. Do you have a special heart too? I do. And I think you do too. As if on cue, her phone buzzed with a text from Dr. Chen. Conference room in 10 minutes. There's someone here to meet you. Harmony left Marcus with Sarah, the art therapy assistant, and made her way through the cheerful hallways lined with children's artwork. The conference room door was open, and inside, she found Dr. Chen talking with a tall woman with kind eyes and graying brown hair. Harmony, I'd like you to meet Dr. Patricia Santos from the University of Arizona. She's been studying consciousness and after-death communication for 20 years. Harmony's breath caught. The name from her father's journal. The researcher Serenity had mentioned in one of her final messages. Dr. Santos stood and extended her hand. I've been wanting to meet you for months. Your mother contacted me last year about some extraordinary experiences you'd been having. My mother? Harmony was stunned. Linda had become a cautious believer, but had never mentioned reaching out to researchers. She thought I should know about the documented case of written after-death communication you experienced. In 30 years of research, I've encountered fewer than a dozen cases of such clear, verifiable contact. Dr. Santos pulled out a tablet and showed Harmony a photograph of her father's journal. Your mother also shared your father's documentation. The genetic component of psychic sensitivity is something we're just beginning to understand. Dr. Chen leaned forward. Dr. Santos is here because we've had some unusual reports from other staff members. Children, claiming to receive comfort from deceased relatives. Unexplained synchronicities during therapy sessions. Instances of healing that seem to accelerate when certain children work with you specifically. What are you saying? Dr. Santos smiled. We're saying that your presence here isn't just beneficial for the children's psychological healing. There's a measurable difference in recovery rates for children who work with you compared to traditional therapy. We think your sensitivity is creating a safe space for them to access their own supernatural experiences without fear of judgment. Harmony thought of Marcus and his nighttime visits from his grandmother, of 7-year-old Elena, who painted detailed portraits of her deceased baby brother, of 10-year-old David, who claimed his father's spirit helped him overcome his fear of medical procedures. How many children have reported supernatural experiences since I started here? 43 out of the 67 children in your program, Dr. Chen said quietly, and every single one of them has shown remarkable improvement in processing their trauma once they felt safe enough to share those experiences. Dr. Santos pulled up research data on her tablet. We believe you're unconsciously creating what we call a consciousness bridge, a psychological environment where the boundary between dimensions becomes more permeable. The children sense this and feel safe enough to acknowledge their own encounters with deceased loved ones. But that's not all, Dr. Chen continued. 3 families have specifically requested to transfer their children to this hospital because they heard about a therapist who believes in spiritual communication. Word is spreading through the grieving family's community. Harmony felt a familiar tingling sensation, the same energy she'd experienced when reading Serenity's messages. She excused herself and walked to the window overlooking the hospital courtyard. Below, she could see children playing in the healing garden, their laughter drifting up through the desert air. Her phone buzzed with a text from her mother. Check your email. Something arrived for you. Harmony opened her email and found a message from Dr. Chen, sent just moments before their meeting. The subject line read, Extraordinary Grant Opportunity. The email contained information about a federal research grant for studying non-traditional healing methods in pediatric trauma recovery. The grant would fund a 3-year study of consciousness-based therapy techniques, with Harmony as the lead therapist and Dr. Santos as the research director. The funding amount made Harmony's knees weak. $2.3 million to create the first officially recognized program for children experiencing after-death communications as part of their healing process. She walked back to the conference room in a daze. How long have you been planning this? Dr. Santos and Dr. Chen exchanged glances. The grant opportunity came up this morning, Dr. Chen said. We submitted a preliminary application 3 months ago, but honestly, we didn't expect to be considered. This type of research is usually too controversial for federal funding. What changed? Dr. Santos pulled up a news article on her tablet. Last week, Johns Hopkins published a groundbreaking study on consciousness and near-death experiences. The medical community is finally ready to acknowledge that human consciousness might not be limited to brain activity. Your case, combined with your documented success with the children here, represents exactly the kind of evidence-based spiritual healing the research community has been looking for. Harmony stared at the grant details, remembering Serenity's words about the universe conspiring to help when people align with their true purpose. If I accept this, what happens? You become the director of the first federally funded research program for supernatural healing in children. You help establish protocols that other hospitals can use. You train therapists across the country to recognize and support children's spiritual experiences. Dr. Santos paused. You change the way the medical community understands the relationship between consciousness and healing. That evening, Harmony sat in Serenity's bedroom, which she had converted into a meditation space. The purple diary lay open on a small altar surrounded by photos of family members who had passed on. She hadn't received a written message from Serenity in months, but she still felt her sister's presence in moments of quiet contemplation. "I know you can't write to me anymore," she said aloud, "but I hope you can still hear me. This opportunity, this chance to help children who experience what we experienced, it feels like everything you guided me toward. I'm scared, but I'm ready." The room filled with the scent of vanilla, Serenity's favorite perfume, and Harmony felt a warmth that seemed to embrace her like invisible arms. On the altar, next to the diary, sat Marcus's painting of purple butterflies surrounded by silver stars. In the corner of the canvas, in a child's careful handwriting, he had written, "For Miss Harmony's sister in heaven. Thank you for sending her to help us." Harmony picked up her phone and typed an email to Dr. Santos. "I accept the grant position. Let's change the world." As she hit send, the diary pages fluttered gently in the still air, as if touched by an invisible hand offering one final blessing. Outside her window, the desert night was alive with possibilities, and Harmony Wells was no longer a woman grieving her sister's death. She was a bridge builder between dimensions, a healer of children's souls, and living proof that love truly does transcend every boundary the physical world tries to impose. 3 years after that first impossible message appeared in Serenity's diary, Harmony stood before a packed auditorium at the International Conference on Consciousness and Healing. Medical professionals, researchers, and therapists from around the world had gathered to hear about the Phoenix Children's Hospital program that was revolutionizing pediatric trauma recovery. "When I first found written messages from my deceased sister," Harmony began, her voice steady and confident, "I thought I was losing my mind. Today, our research has documented over 300 cases of children who have experienced meaningful contact with deceased loved ones during their healing process. More importantly, we've proven that acknowledging and supporting these experiences accelerates recovery by an average of 60%. The audience was silent, absorbed. Behind Harmony, a massive screen displayed statistics that would have been dismissed as fantasy just 5 years earlier. Decreased anxiety scores, improved sleep patterns, faster integration of traumatic memories, and overall healing times that defied conventional psychological models. Marcus Henderson, one of our first patients, just graduated high school with a full scholarship to study art therapy. He credits his grandmother's spiritual guidance with teaching him that death is not the end of love, but a transformation of it. Harmony clicked to a photo of Marcus, now 18, standing beside one of his paintings in a gallery showing. He plans to work with grieving children, continuing the cycle of healing that begins when we stop dismissing the impossible and start embracing the miraculous. Dr. Santos joined her on stage, carrying a thick folder of documentation. The Phoenix Protocol, as it's now called, has been implemented in 47 hospitals across 12 countries. We're training therapists to recognize spiritual communication, to document supernatural experiences, and to integrate consciousness-based healing into traditional medical practice. Harmony's mother, Linda, sat in the front row, now serving as the program's family liaison coordinator. Beside her sat Dr. Martinez, who had become their primary psychological consultant after witnessing that first impossible page appear in the diary. The skeptic had become the believer who helped design the research protocols that made their work scientifically credible. But the real miracle, Harmony continued, isn't that consciousness survives death. The real miracle is that love creates bridges strong enough to carry healing across any distance, any dimension, any barrier that separates souls who belong together. The standing ovation lasted for 7 minutes. As Harmony left the stage, she felt the familiar warmth that always accompanied Serenity's presence during important moments. In the pocket of her blazer, she carried a small purple notebook, not the original diary, which was now housed in a university research archive, but a new one she used for her own spiritual communications. That night, in her hotel room overlooking the Denver skyline, Harmony opened the notebook and wrote, "Serenity, we did it. We changed the way the world understands death, love, and healing. Children everywhere can now talk about their supernatural experiences without being told they're imagining things. Families are reuniting across the boundary of death. Medical science is finally acknowledging that consciousness is bigger than brain chemistry." She paused, pen hovering over the page, then continued, "I know you can't write back anymore, but I feel you in every success story. Every child who learns that love never dies. Every family who discovers that death is just another form of communication. Thank you for teaching me that miracles aren't supernatural at all. They're just love refusing to be limited by the rules of physics." As she set down the pen, Harmony's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Ms. Wells, my name is Jennifer Torres. My 6-year-old daughter died in a car accident last month, and yesterday I found a drawing she made that wasn't there before. Someone told me you might understand. Can you help me?" Harmony smiled, recognizing the hand of synchronicity at work. She typed back, "I'll call you in the morning. You're not alone and you're not losing your mind. Love finds a way." Outside her window, the city lights twinkled like earthbound stars, each one representing a life, a story, a soul learning that death is not the end, but a commencement into something infinitely more beautiful than anything the physical world can contain. Harmony Wells had kept her promise to keep reading, even when it didn't make sense. Now, she was helping others do the same, one impossible miracle at a time. The truth is, you don't have to lose someone to experience the miraculous. Every day, the universe is sending you messages through synchronicities, intuitive nudges, and moments when you know something without knowing how you know it. The only difference between Harmony and most people is that she chose to believe in the impossible instead of explaining it away. Right now, as you're watching this story, someone you love who has passed on is trying to reach you. Maybe it's through a song that plays at exactly the right moment, a dream that feels more real than waking life, or a butterfly that appears when you're thinking of them. Maybe it's through the sudden urge to call someone who needs to hear from you, or a book that falls open to the exact page you need to read. Love doesn't end when the physical body stops functioning. It transforms, expands, and finds new ways to touch the lives of those who remain. Your deceased loved ones haven't abandoned you. They've become your spiritual support team, guiding you toward your highest purpose, sending you signs that you matter, that your life has meaning, that every choice you make ripples through eternity. But here's what Harmony's story really teaches us. The greatest miracles happen when we stop waiting for permission to believe in magic and start trusting the whispers of our own hearts. When we choose love over fear, possibility over limitation, faith over skepticism, you are not alone. You have never been alone. And every moment of your life is an opportunity to build bridges between the seen and unseen worlds, to heal not just yourself, but everyone whose life you touch. The question isn't whether miracles are real. The question is, are you ready to become one? What transformation are you manifesting in 2025? What impossible dream is calling your name? What would you dare to believe if you knew, beyond any doubt, that love really is the strongest force in any dimension? Your story of impossible healing is waiting to be written. And somewhere in the space between heartbeats, between thoughts, between the world you can see and the one you can feel, those who love you most are cheering you on, whispering that you are exactly where you need to be, exactly when you need to be there. Butterfly kisses and midnight wishes, forever and always.